Most people suffering with depression go unnoticed, but almost all of us have a secret indication to the world that we are in trouble. I know someone who would dig out 20-year-old shoes and wear them whenever they got really depressed. If you didn't know what you were looking for, you wouldn't even notice. Do you want to know what my tell is? Whenever things get really bad, I move down here to this basement bedroom and try to ride out the storm. Thankfully, my family knows what to look for now, and they're always there to help me out. Depression is a crippling and misunderstood beast, and that's exactly what we're going to be talking about today on the channel, for real. No need to stay down there longer than we need to. I'm JP the Stable Cyclist, and everything we do on this channel is looked at through the lens of mental health. Now, for those of you that are new, I was diagnosed with bipolar disorder in 2020, and it's a fair assumption that I would have been very familiar with what depression was like or what it felt like, but I wasn't. To be totally honest, I didn't even realize that I was suffering with depression, let alone that it was ruining my life. Today's video is a part of a series on this channel called Guardrails and Signposts. Now, guardrails are all about mania management in the world of bipolar, and signposts, on the other hand, are all part of working through depression and trying to find our way back out. And these signposts apply not just to someone with bipolar disorder, but anyone suffering from depression. Signposts are markings that help us know the way, and in this case, they're the reminders of how to move, literally, as we fight against depression. Now, this is your regular reminder that I'm not a doctor, I'm just a regular guy, I'm a teacher. And the stuff that I tell you on here should not be used to diagnose anyone or explain how your family's behaving. If you or someone you know actually needs help, you need to go to a doctor. The general mood about depression, unfortunately, in this country is that it's a very simple idea. And I asked my followers on Instagram to tell me what they thought the understanding from our culture and where we live is in regard to depression, and to describe it in one sentence. And here's what they had to say. Depression is something that can be joked about. Depression is a choice. Most people think it's just being sad, maybe suicidal. It's a real problem for some people, but self-imposed by others. If you smile and ignore how terrible you feel, everything will magically be better. It is for the lazy and weak-minded and can be overcome with sheer willpower. This one is probably the closest to reality right now. Most people know very little, and the signs are really hard to spot. I'll admit that when I was first diagnosed with bipolar disorder, I had similar thoughts of what depression was. I didn't really understand it at all. And so, at least at first, I didn't understand how bad things had been for the previous decade. What depression can actually look like is really complex. And rather than show you this huge list, we'll look at these one at a time. Now, bear in mind, this list is not comprehensive, it's not complete, it's just a snapshot of some of the things that can be going on if you're depressed. Symptoms of depression can include poor appetite or eating too much, trouble sleeping or sleeping too much, nervousness and worry, loss of interest in or withdrawal from usual activities, feelings of sadness that won't go away, irritability or restlessness, lack of energy, feelings of sadness, worthlessness or guilt, inability to think or concentrate, repeated thoughts of death or suicide, chronic pain or other physical problems that don't respond to treatment, increased risk-taking behavior, including reckless driving or substance abuse. When I was diagnosed, some of those symptoms made sense, but I was sitting in this exact seat when I realized just how bad things were. My therapist and I were working through this book together, and in it there was a comprehensive depression screening. Now, I laughed when I was going to take it and thought, I'm not going to learn anything new here. But a few minutes later, as I finished, I pushed the book away from myself and I stared out the window. My wife asked me what was wrong. And I said, if this is what depression is, if the things I just marked down point to that, then I've been depressed for at least 10 years. It was at this moment, 6 months after my diagnosis, that I realized maybe I could change. Maybe I really needed to change. I had no idea how to change. I had no idea how to fight back. And I needed to really lean into my therapist so that she could coach me on what to do. I needed to educate myself on what things were a problem for me and what things I could do to fix it. To start with, I had to learn what I actually could control in this situation. I couldn't control that I have bipolar disorder, but I could be proactive, and the first step was learning the common triggers for depression. They include stress or life events, disruption to your routine or schedule, seasonal changes, hormonal changes, family communication patterns, or substance abuse. Some of the things on that list are unavoidable, like life events and seasonal changes. You cannot prevent the death of a loved one, and you cannot stop fall from changing to winter. But you can be proactive in some of the other areas and establish routines, and that will help mitigate the severity of some of those other areas. I said earlier that signposts help us know the way. And in this case, these signposts help us work our way up from the depths of depression. They are reminders of things for us to do on a regular basis. The first and most important thing, if you are struggling, is to go see the doctor. Everything else moves forward after this. In a previous episode, I talked about the importance of exercise, and the reality is, when I realized how depressed I was and had been, I didn't really feel like exercising. My arms and legs felt so heavy all the time, but my therapist really encouraged me to get out and move every day. It wouldn't reset me back to zero, but it would help move the needle a little bit and move me in a positive direction. And she was right. Therapists can teach new skills of how to go about tackling depression each and every day. And they will coach you in how to manage your day with a new game plan to attack depression on a daily basis. Keeping a routine gives you predictability and a comfort in knowing what a typical day will contain. You can't always control what other people are doing, but you can have a general plan of how you're going to go about your day. Next week's episode will dive deep into this, that activity is the enemy of depression. So get up and get moving, fold your clothes, wash the dishes, just avoid laying in bed all day. Make lists every day of things to check off, even if you're feeling terrible. Because when you're able to check those things off, you'll feel productive. I make a list every night before I go to bed, and the first 2 things on that list are wake up and get out of bed. So when I get out of bed, I already have 2 things checked off for the day. You're not meant to be alone. So find somewhere with people to plug yourself into. Obviously for me, it's the mountain bike community and so many of my friends who exist here that I plug into each and every day, and especially when I'm able to go to races. But for others, that might not be the case. Maybe for you it's joining a book club or becoming more involved in a community group. Maybe it's becoming more involved in your faith community. Whatever it is, we were made for each other and to be with others, not to be alone, because these people can hold us and lift us up when we really need it the most. I know today's content was a little heavy, and from time to time we're gonna dig in on certain topics like this because we need to. We need to be able to talk about things like this. But I'm so thankful you were here with me today. And if you don't want to miss the next time we get together, be sure to hit the subscribe button. And if you enjoyed the content, please share it with others and be sure to hit the like button down below as well. Finally, please, more than ever, remember to go out and tell those around you that they are loved. People need to be told, especially when they are feeling down, that they are still loved and cared for. I'm JP, the Stable Cyclist. Thanks so much for hanging out today. We'll see you next time.